Jon, thank you very much for joining the podcast.
Hey, no problem, man. Thanks for having me.
Now, UFC 242 yesterday, a great performance for your teams, Zubaira, Khabib, and Islam. Khabib is always delivered.
There's a lot going on, I think, there that a lot of people just don't understand. And a lot of it is that for, I'd say, the past decade at least, the UFC has been pushing a stand and brawl narrative and rewarding certain guys for standing and banging, and everybody thinks that that's how you have to fight now. If you want to make money, if you want to succeed, if you want to climb the ladders, you have to stand and trade. So I personally think in the last 10 years, the grappling has dropped tremendously. I think the skill sets of these fighters' grappling ability is plummeted. I don't think they're doing the same amount of time on the ground. I don't think they're doing the wrestling. I think they're just kickboxing all the time. And you see that in the fights. They look like kickboxing sparring sessions all the time. They don't look like mixed up fights like we used to see. And I think when you have guys like me and Askren and Khabib coming around, and we're guys who are like, no, we're just going to do what we do well to win, and we're going to grapple you. These guys that have not even been challenged with grappling, because both guys are content in standing and trading, so they don't have to think about it. So then somebody comes in who's with a grappling mindset, and he just destroys everybody. And people are like, wait a minute, what's going on? I don't understand this. I think that's what it is.
One thing with him, though, like everybody knows what he's going to do.
Everybody knows what I'm going to do. Yeah.
Yeah, you guys still show up and you able to do what you plan to do and seem to be unstoppable. What the hell? Like with him in particular, what does he do differently that nobody can figure out? Is it like he has something that hard to prepare for, or what's the story?
Well, one of the big focuses is we fight. Like, okay, we train to fight. Okay, we learn wrestling, we learn jiu-jitsu, we learn striking to win MMA fights. A lot of these guys are learning individual disciplines, and they're not actually creating a fighting style. They're just, okay, now I'm going to jiu-jitsu. Okay, now I'm going to box. Okay, now I'm going to do this. And they're not really developing a style of MMA that combines all of those aspects together in a flow. And I think that's what a lot of these people are missing.
I see. Well, I mean, it's working for you guys, and that's the most important. But don't you think it's a kind of fault of these promotions that kind of incentivized people to stand and bang, right?
Yeah. I mean, the promoter is going to be a promoter. He's going to try to maximize his profits. What we need is free agency. Fighters need to be able to jump around faster, shorter contracts from promotion to promotion. And that's going to force the promoters act differently, because they're going to have to actually cater to the athlete. They're going to have to make the actual come to the table with the athletes when it comes to time for the contracts to be signed, rather than just dictating, hey, take it or leave it. And that's what we have now. And it's, completely controlled system that way, with how they do those things in the contracts.
I'm curious how the whole system actually works. Let's take any of the organizations, and if you can kind of walk us through the whole ecosystem. You have organizations such as UFC, Bellator, or PFL, whatever else and there are quite a few of those. You have managers, you have trainers. Like, how all these parties coexist?
Well, I mean, you have your big promotions. Your big promotion, you have one promotion that controls 90% of the market worldwide. And then you have everybody else who kind of fights for second place and whatever. And there's a lot of people tied for second, kind of.
Yeah.
But I mean, the managers really aren't even managers, because they don't have much leverage. They can't really do much as far as marketing for contractual deals, right? Unless they have 50 guys in their stable, and a lot of those guys are ranked in the top 10. They don't have as much power. They can't get as much money. Like, it's hard. So the manager really is just a broking agent. He's just a broker, middleman between the promotion and the fighter. They're usually take it or leave it contracts. They're pretty standard, for most people. But what the manager can do is, if he's good, he finds ways to make money outside of the event. Or if you're in a promotion that actually can have sponsors, he helps make you money through sponsorship. That's where a good manager can help you out. Is really
that's the main job, right? Basically, look for sponsors and
under today's circumstances, because they don't really have much power with the promotions. Like the promoter can just say, okay, I don't like this deal, and then I'll just take these guys over here, and I'm the one who gives the rankings, and I'm the one who promotes the guy and pushes the guy and tells everybody he's great. So it doesn't matter. Like your guy, it doesn't matter how good he is. I don't care. I want him for this much money. Give him to me for this much money, or go away. And then guys, the managers don't really have an option.
And you obviously pay cut of your whatever the manager brings, right? Mm-hmm. What's typical cut?
It's
like
usually
20, 15?
Usually 10 to 15, depends. And it also depends on the type of manager and what they're doing. You could have separate deal for contract negotiations. You have he takes 10% of all the fight deals that they do, but then they could have a different percentage for any money deals that they bring in.
Yeah, I see.
Yeah.
What about trainers? Like when I see all these training camps, how do you guys pay them, or what's the story?
A lot of it will depend on the gym. So a lot of times what will happen is the fighter will pay a percentage to the gym, right? And then the gym owner will cash the money out to the trainers. But it can also be a situation where the fighter pays a specific trainer individually. And that can either be a straight flat fee or negotiated percentage. There's really a few ways that stuff can be handled.
And when you guys fly out to, I don't know, another country and you bring the whole team with you, who covers the cost? Is it the fighter?
The promotion will pay for the fighter and one corner, 1 second. And that's it, unless you are a main event. If you're main event, then you'll get another corner added to that. But you're going to have to pay for that. So if you got 3 people in your corner, you're bringing a nutritionist, you're bringing some other people, you're paying for all of those guys. You're paying for their flights, you're paying for their hotels.
So when I see the guy getting, a gal getting 10 and 10, that's pretty much, most of this is pretty much gone to other parties. Yep. Oh, holy moly. You guys don't.
So you're averaging, 20%, 20 to 25% probably off the top to management and coaches, right? And then you're probably going to have anywhere from 5 to 15% is going to go from, gear to massages to nutrition and diet stuff. And then after that, you've got taxes, which is going to be, 30 to 40% of your purse. You're paying out, 60% before you get your cash.
Man, that's tough.
And then a lot of these guys, so, they make 10 and 10, they lose. Right. So they made 10, and 10. 60% of that's gone. So they got $4,000 to live off of, and they may only fight twice that year.
And that's not even, it's probably even in the best organizations, right? And we're not even talking about regional organization where it's even less.
That's UFC. UFC has the highest paying threshold for first time fighters, which is 10 and 10. They're paying the most to the lowest guys that come in, and those guys are struggling.
That's very tough.
And that's one of the problems with the contracts tying people up so much. Like if you're not fighting a guy every 6 months, release him. Like you should be a free agent. That there should be no reason for a guy to sit on the shelf. A 24-year-old kid sitting on the shelf, making 5 and 5 a fight or 10 and 10 a fight. Why are you having this guy sit for 6 months? Like let him go. You're not working him. You're not using him. Let him go make money.
So for these guys who make 10 and 10, does it mean that MMA is the second part-time job, or?
There are a lot of hobbyists, honestly, in this sport. They have a different career. They make more money, majority of their money doing something else, and they fight as a hobby.
That's very interesting. Like it's such a competitive sport, and it has evolved. I can't even see how you can be in the mix doing it part-time. Like even full-time, you're still not going to get to the mix.
Well, that's the thing is it's you don't really do it well, and guys might not fight that many times, but the promoters bring them on because it's just more bodies. They're just selling more violence. A lot of people don't know the difference between some bum who's fought twice in 10 years and never really trained versus somebody who trains every day for a decade.
Yeah. Speaking of violence, let's talk about Bellator 220. That was a pretty violent fight.
There were some good ones.
Well, I was talking about your fight with
with Rory. Yeah.
With Rory. Yeah, that's what I was.
The violent robbery.
Yeah, so like that was like a controversial decision for many people, and I kind of looked. I had my own opinion. Yeah, I kind of scored it for you, but again, I'm interviewing you. Like, what else would I say? But I looked through some blogs and through this expert, and they all kind of split on the decision. So it was kind of tough thing to.
I mean, it's the people arguing that I lost are people arguing about damage, and damage is bullshit. That's not a scoring. It's not a scoring criteria. It never has been a scoring criteria. You cannot weigh something on damage. How do you weigh damage? How do you score damage? You don't know how hard a punch hurt or what happened. I mean, it doesn't make any sense unless the person actually got dropped. Like, then that's something to score. The judges will actually score as damage because, okay, yeah, he got dropped. Then it's a 10-8 round. I was told by commission guys last night at Bellator that my round with Rory, that was a 10-8 round. That's the example they're using for how to score 10-8 rounds.
Oh, it's a third round, I think, right?
So so that is now California's textbook example to every judge coming through what a 10-8 round should look like.
That's nice. Oh, how do you feel though? Like people using you as a benchmark?
Well, I mean, yeah, it's not the first time. So, but no, I mean, I don't know. I think that I've said this before, the scoring criteria is a problem. There is none, right? They say ring generalmanship, aggressiveness, grappling, and striking. But there's no definition of those terms. That's it. That's all you get. Score the fight on those four things. How?
Yeah, good luck with that.
Yeah, and that's what all these judges are left up with. Like, okay, they can go through all these seminars and classes, whatever, but like in wrestling, you have very detailed explanations of what the criteria are. This is a takedown. This is where the body position needs to be. These are the circumstances that you score this. This is, anybody could come off the street, read the rule book, read the criterias, and then go score a match. You can't do that in MMA. You can't do that.
Hey. So do you think the issue then is that MMA basically consists of individual disciplines? Each of them can actually be measured, but combined, there is not enough knowledge, institutional knowledge of people to come up with right.
Well, I just think any type of sport needs to have, rules that have explicit explanation, right? If you play a board game and I hand you a board game, there's the explicit rules and details telling you exactly how to play and how to score and how to win the game. That should be the same thing for MMA, same thing for soccer, same thing for every sport, right? If they want to shift the rules a little bit every year and have votes or whatever, but like that, it needs to happen. Like there should be very detailed explanations of how you score.
Yeah, that makes sense. So I've read interviews and I saw your interview also about your future after the fight, and you kind of contemplated the retirement, and I think you weren't sure yet. What's your plan? Tell the world.
I'm still on the fence, but I think I'm leaning towards I'm gonna fight again.
Oh, nice.
Because I've had, I kind of took the summer off. I kind of didn't train. I lifted a little bit. I kept on my diet, but I focused on just hanging out, playing with my kids, and I built like a little workspace in my garage. I built a gym, and this is my little podcasting area right here.
Yeah.
So I got that done, and then I'm just kind of thinking about it, and I going to the shows last night and seeing the stuff, and I'm like, man, I don't know, man. It's still fun. I think I just beat one of the best welterweights out there. I think I could compete with the guys who are at the top. I think I could beat Usman. So why not do it? I mean, the big reason for me was like the money's not really there anymore. And after the Rory thing, like I'm making 63 and 63 for a fight, right? But because the Rory fight got delayed, they guaranteed my purse, right? So win or lose, I got my purse. So but it was called a draw. So that fight could have very easily, I only made half my money. Win the fight, make half your money. I was like, man, I started thinking about that. I was like, I did everything right. I did all the work. I busted my ass. I prepped, I did what needed to happen, and I won this fight, and still the judges got it wrong. And it could have cost me half my pay. And I was like, all of that work was not worth $63,000. It wasn't. Like, it's just not. So I'm thinking, that's part of what I'm thinking is like, you know, do I really want to do this again for that kind of money? I live in, you know, the Bay Area. I could get a job doing sales on the phone, and I'd probably start off at $60,000 a year, like, and not get punched in the face and probably have healthcare paid for.
And Bay Area is a very expensive place to live in. Yeah, I'm here too. That's crazy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you have to have the correct mindset. You have to have an abundance mindset, because you could say, "Oh my God, it's so expensive. I'll never be able to afford to live there." But the correct I just draw a blank on the word. But that's a scarcity mindset, right? There's not enough to go around. No, like, you have to look at it as, look at how much money is here. These people are making so much money, they can afford to live here. I need to figure out how to tap into that market. Like, there's an abundance of money here. Like, that's the correct mindset. Oh, it's not so expensive to live here. No, there's a lot of money out there. There's a lot of money in the Bay Area. That's how you should think about it.
Well, good. I think it's a great mindset.
Yeah.
Hey, I want to kind of talk a little about you and your fighting career. And I know that you started wrestling, I think, when you were age 9 or something, very early.
Pretty much, yeah.
How did you end up in the wrestling gym?
I had my cousin Brent. He was my second cousin. My father and his father were cousins. Mm-hmm. Okay, and he had an older brother who wrestled on the Carroll High School wrestling team, and he would go and he would come back and he would tell me stories. He'd tell us at school, at grade school, stories about his brother and all the stuff going on. And that was the 80s, and you know, pro wrestling was big at the time, mm-hmm. right? And I had no idea that pro wrestling was not real.
What do we mean by pro wrestling? Is it WWE?
WWF. That's what it was at the time. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure you were disappointed later on. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Andre the Giant. That stuff. So I was like, man, like, he's telling me stories. Like, I didn't see it. He's telling me the stories, and I'm like, man, this sounds just like WWF. And like, well, that's cool. I want to do that. And he started telling me like he would take the school bus, and back then you would take the school bus to another school, and then some more kids would get on the school, and you go back. What he would do is he would go to that school, and they had wrestling practice. So he'd get off the bus and he'd go to the wrestling, junior high wrestling practice. Mm-hmm. So this was 4th grade for me. And luckily it was the coach at the time, Tony Truax. He would let any kid come into that wrestling practice. Right. So it was only supposed to be junior high kids, but he had 1st graders. Yeah. Right. So I was the 4th grade. So I went with him on the bus, and I rode, I checked it out, and I thought it was cool, but like, I was totally, whole world crushed, because I was like, this isn't pro wrestling. I was like, what is this? But then like, I could, I could see that like, it was still intriguing to me. I was like, man, this is crazy. Like, I got to figure this out. So I begged my mom to do it. She wasn't into it. She took me to go watch. She's like, you sure you want to do this? I don't know. And then luckily another kind of relative of ours, Brad, who was there, and he was volunteer assistant coaching with them. And, mm-hmm. He talked her into it, basically. It's like, this is a great sport. It'll turn him into a really respectable, good man. This will be great for him. She's like, okay. And so she started letting me go. And I did half seasons because I was still playing football or basketball, but I would ride the bus over after grade school, and then I'd go to the mm-hmm. junior high, and I wrestled.
Cool. What was your wrestling career like? Can you kind of walk me through it?
I didn't get good until it was just fun, and I liked doing it, and like the adventure of taking the bus to another school and doing all this. It was kind of like being free a little bit. Mm-hmm. So I think I really kind of liked that. It appealed to me, and it was just fun. I like being challenged and wrestling, and you're basically kind of fighting and getting away with it when you went to wrestling. So I kind of stuck with it, but like, I didn't really get good until junior high, like my 8th grade year. I had one loss, I think, in 8th grade, 1 or 2 losses. But up until then, I had so seasons. But like, I would gradually get a little bit better every year, and it would encourage me enough, because that was the other cool thing that our coach did. They couldn't get away with it now, but he would lie about our age to get us into junior high tournaments.
Yeah.
right?
I've seen that.
So yeah, so I was a fourth grader, and he would put me in tournaments, and I would wrestle eighth graders.
Oh, that was fun.
Yeah, man. So I got smashed a few times or whatever, but like, you know, he would talk us up into a way. Like I thought I was supposed to go out there and compete with these guys. Like he built that kind of confidence in me, like no one has ever done before. And I was just like,
Mm-hmm.
and every once in a while I would beat some of these guys. And then, you know, I think I placed one year. I think I placed like in sixth grade, and then I placed like in seventh grade, a little bit higher. And I was like, oh wow. I was like starting to get good at it. But like my passion was football, so wrestling was just kind of like a side thing I did for fun when I wasn't playing football.
No, that's interesting.
Yeah, and then junior high season was good, or just eighth grade year, and then I went to high school. I wrestled reserve in high school. I had a senior in my weight class, and I would challenge him like every week, and I'd lose to him by like a point or two. And then finally, the week before like sectionals, like the state tournament stuff, you know, started, I beat him for the first time. But you have to win 2 out of 3 to take the spot.
Yeah,
So like, man, I lost in like an overtime by a point. So like
that sucked.
So I almost for me, but like for him, it would have sucked worse because he was a senior, and I almost stole his last chance to make a state run. But you know, so the next junior sophomore year, I started. You know, I placed at semi-state, and then I went to state as a junior. I placed 8th at state as a junior, and I got 3rd in state. I was ranked number 1 in state all year, and then I lost in the semis to somebody I didn't even know who he was, but he was ranked number 2, I guess. So
Wow.
back then we didn't have the internet to check on who else was in our weight class.
Which is good. You're not afraid to face whoever's in front of you. You don't know that person is ranked number 1.
Yeah, but the kid also only had one move, and that was a cradle. I got cradled, which is, you know, it grabs the leg in your head, puts you on your back.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah, so he had a cradle. Like I took him down twice easy. That was my thing. I took people down, took him down. I took him down twice, cut him. Then I shot in once, took him down, and then he got to a position where he cradled me, and then he got back points, and then he took the lead and stalled the rest of the fight, rest of the match. So
that
like,
sucks.
if I would have known, oh, this is the kid that cradles everybody, it might have been a different story.
Oh well, you still did fine, right? What was next?
Then I
junior,
decided,
right?
Yeah, I started. That was senior year that I got 3rd, and then you know, I had already come to accept that I probably wasn't going to go and play college football before that senior year started. So I started shifting gears towards, maybe I should wrestle in college. Let's wrestle in college. I could do that. I could walk on and wrestle somewhere. So I'd look around different places to wrestle. But like, then I started seeing how expensive it was to go to school out of state. I didn't want to go to IU. So like, okay, Purdue's Big Ten and it's in state. I'll do that. So I walked on to Purdue. I already had a couple teammates from high school that were going to wrestle there. One was there and one's brother was coming with me that year. So I knew people, kind of made it easy. I walked on, and then by the second year, I started getting books. They started paying for my books. So I worked hard enough. I worked hard enough as a room guy for them to reward me a little bit. And then I ended up being a 4-year letter winner. And the senior year, I was a team captain with one other guy. Me and Jake Friselli were team captains.
That's great. So you already knew that you're going to be an athlete. You didn't go to school to get the major, right? It's primarily for.
I went to school to get a degree in wrestling.
Got it. And
but I still studied hard. I still went to my classes, still did all that stuff. So I ended up getting a degree in education, PE, and history. Because I figured I'd teach. I figured, well, I like wrestling. I might as well teach and be a wrestling coach. But then senior year, they wait till your senior year to put you in a class and student teach. And the first day I was like, oh man, I don't want to do this.
Yeah, was pretty boring. So
it's pretty boring. It's soul sucking. You see the teachers and like they're powerless. They have no control over their classrooms. They have no control over their curriculum. They're just told what to do by the state. Like, there's just no joy in them. The kids hate it there. The stuff they're learning is stupid. It's like, it's a broken system. Like, this is, more than 15 years ago. The U.S. school system is a broken system. And I'm actually walking through and doing this stuff as a student teacher, then I see it. You don't see it when you're learning about, teaching ideologies and all this stuff. You don't see it then. But when you that's why they wait until the end of your school to put you in the classroom. Because when you get in there in your classroom, you're like, oh my God, like this is just the whole system is not good. And then the teachers look like they're beat down and they're doing the same stuff that they've been doing for the last 15 years. It's just recycling everything.
And if students misbehave, you can't mold them, which sucks.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. That was like 20 years ago that I did this almost. And even then the teachers couldn't really discipline. It's gotten worse. Like, I remember
I see.
I had a friend who was teaching out here, like in San Diego, and she wasn't allowed to discipline kids that had their like earphones in and were on their phone, because it was okay because they had ADD or ADHD, and it was harmful for them not to have that stuff in. So she had like teach and do all this stuff while the kids are like doing this and like they're listening to music. Like, insane, absolutely insane. It's just babysitting. They're paying the teachers to babysit them, it seems like.
And when was that? Like, I think you entered MMA.
Yeah, I graduated
sometime in 2000 something.
2002. I graduated 2002, and then I fought in July. Graduated in May, fought in July.
How did you discover MMA? It was a pretty much beginning, right? It wasn't mainstream yet.
Yeah, no, it wasn't mainstream yet. I had seen some of the early UFCs. We were getting that back in that day. We used to get pay-per-views for kickboxing, UFC, boxing, whatever. We'd get together. We'd chip in money, and we'd get a pay-per-view, and we'd order Papa John's. We were in high school, so we didn't have anything to do. we didn't have any girls or anything fun, no parties. So that was our Friday, Saturday nights. We'd rent stuff and watch. So I'd watch. I kept up with it. I'd never really thought about doing it because as a wrestler, I understood how big heavyweights were. I was like, this seems interesting, but I don't want to fight a guy who's 240. Like, that sounds like a bad idea. So
back then there weren't weight classes.
There were no
right?
weight classes. Yeah.
Oh shoot!
So,
yeah.
It didn't seem like a good idea. I was like, man, I want to fight these jiu-jitsu guys, but like, I don't want to fight a 400-pound guy. Like when all the legal stuff, all the banning and stuff kind of happened, like I didn't really pay much attention to it.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't until it started getting back on pay-per-view that I paid attention again in college. But the big thing was I had a assistant coach at Purdue called Tom Erickson, the big cat. And Tom had fought in Brazil before, and he was currently fighting in Pride. He fought a number of fights in Pride.
Nice.
Tom was friends with a number of other fighters. The first other fighter I met was, I think, Ian Freeman, and that was recently after he knocked out Frank Mir, I think.
Oh.
So he came to train with Tom to learn a little bit of wrestling, some counter wrestling. And then I met Gary Goodrich. He was friends with Tom. They fought each other and they become friends, and then they started training together. Tom would get stand-up training from Gary, and Gary would get wrestling from Tom. And then Mark Coleman was friends with him too. So those guys would all come to town. They'd work out. Coleman would bring some guys. He brought like Keith Sims a few times. So I got a chance to train with some of those guys, and I was, refocused on wrestling and getting better and training hard during the summertime, not just taking the summers off when they were kind of around. And I would jump in to get workouts in just to kind of like sweat a little bit, get some weight management in, and just do something different. Mm-hmm. But as we did that, I started realizing that, hey man, I'm like, they're telling stories, they're talking about their money, they're talking about all these adventures, talking about girls, all this stuff, all this cool stuff. And I'm like, man, this sounds pretty cool. It's like, sounds like a fun life. And then I'm like taking them down. I'm not doing that bad with these guys, and kind of like what we're doing, the stuff we're doing. I was like, it's like, man, these guys make a lot more money than I would be making teaching. And this is pretty fun. And I'm actually able to move with these guys, and they're really big and they get paid this money. I was like, maybe I'll think about this. So I started doing a little bit more and more and playing with it more and more. And because like I didn't get really good at wrestling until the last 2 years of my wrestling career.
Yeah.
And then I was like, man, I don't want to be done competing. So I started messing around with MMA and thinking that, okay, well, this is a great way for me to stay competing and keep after it, maybe make some money and have a little bit of an adventure.
How did you end up with AKA?
I won a scholarship at Purdue that paid for a year of grad school. So after I graduated, I was able to hang out for a year and work with the wrestling team. And in that time, I started fighting. And I fought up in Minnesota. Brad Kohler had an event up there, Ultimate Wrestling or something like that. I went up with Brian Ebersol. Brian Ebersol found the fight or found the event for me. We didn't have any contracts. There was no agreements. We just drove up there.
Handshake.
Yeah. We drove up there. We're like, hey, you got even our weight? He's like, yeah, I got a couple guys. Here, jump on the scale. Let me see you. You jump on the bathroom scale. Okay, I got a couple guys for you. See you tomorrow night.
Wow, that's yeah.
That's how it went down back then. And then that night I fought and I beat the guy in the first round. Beat him up pretty good and choked him in the first round. Crowd loved it. I get out of the cage and before I take my gloves off, Brad Kohler runs up. He's like, hey man, hey, don't take your gloves off. I got another fight for you. I'll give you $100 to fight again. Yeah, I'll give you another $100. I'll give you another $100. I'll give you another $100 to fight this guy. I was like, I don't know, man. I was just planning on fighting all the time. He's like, if you don't knock him out, I'll give you $400.
If you don't?
If you don't knock me, yeah.
What the? Okay, that's interesting.
So he was saying, but he basically was saying like, this fight is so easy. You just have to go do it. Just go out there and knock him out real quick. That's basically what he was telling me.
Wait, just to confirm. He wanted you to lose, or he just wanted you not to knock him out?
He wanted me to go out there and not just. He was telling me that the fight was going to be so easy. Just go out there and knock him out. You're going to knock him out with 1 point probably. That's what he was telling me. He's like, it's going to be such an easy fight. If you don't knock him out, it'd be so easy to knock him out. If you don't, I'll give you $400.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Because I guess this guy, it was one of his guys that pissed him off. So he was going to go get him knocked out for pissing him off. He missed practice or didn't show up.
Did you go back?
So, I was like, man, thinking about it, and Ebersol looked at me and he goes, hey, man, if you don't do it, I'm going to do it. So I was like, all right, I'll go do it. So I went out, hit him once, knocked him out. But then as he hit the ground, I jumped on him again to hit him one more time, and I broke my thumb.
Oh.
And that was like $7,000 to fix the thumb.
Holy shit. Oh, man. You should have just declined then.
Yeah. Well, luckily I had student health insurance at the time because I was still in grad school. So yeah, I ended up not having to pay anything.
Good. You made your first money. That's interesting.
But yeah.
So, and how does it lead to AKA?
But that, okay. So
it was Javier Mendez who told you that?
No. So that event was in Minnesota, and Sean Shirk was there. Okay, Sean Shirk was being represented by Zinkin Entertainment at the time.
Oh yeah,
and Bob Cook, and they were associated with AKA and Frank Shamrock at the time.
Yeah. Okay.
So we started a dialogue. You know, Sean Shirk said, "Hey man," we talked to him. Hey, this guy's an animal. So that got them interested in me. Actually, the first thing that the first thing that actually got us in correspondence was Dwayne Zinkin was actually. Cold calling universities. He was calling wrestling coaches because he was an All-American from Fresno State. So he had a lot of connections in the wrestling world. So he was just calling people up looking for wrestlers who were interested in fighting and then recruiting them. He was like the first guy to do that. Yeah. So that's one of the reasons why AKA became such a prominent institution in this game, is because of that recruiting. Nobody else really recruited before, but like Dwayne was calling up Division I champs and wrestlers and their coaches and be like, hey, you got guys who want to fight? You got guys who want to do this? Let's bring them out. Let's talk to them. You got me, Koscheck, DC, Sean Bunch, like a laundry list of these wrestlers. That's how he did it. So that was how we got into correspondence. And then, I started watching some stuff, and I saw Frank Shamrock and Tito Ortiz fight. And then when I saw that fight, I was like, oh man, Frank's smaller. He just moves all the time. Like that's what I want. That's what I need to be around. So that was the deciding factor in me moving. And
you moved from where is Purdue actually located?
Purdue is in Indiana.
Okay,
so
yeah,
I had to drive about 2,200 miles with my dog in my old Buick.
And basically, you left your life behind and moved to Bay Area.
Yep, whatever I could fit in that Buick and my dog.
So you started training in AKA, and what was the first promotion you fought at?
Man, the first thing I fought in for AKA was I think it was, what was it called? Battlegrounds or something. It was in Chicago, and there was this guy who, he screwed everybody. This is the Wild West. So there's no commission, there's nobody checking to see if there's an escrow with the money in it to pay people. There's no insurance, nobody checking insurance. Right. So, this guy put this event together, promised all these guys big names, money, whatever. And the event happened. Nobody showed up to watch. The guy was banking on, the crowd showing up to make the money to pay everybody. Of course, nobody showed up. And then nobody got paid. A bunch of bounced checks. He disappeared. Nobody heard of him for a while.
Yeah, the last type of people I want us to screw is a bunch of wrestlers and fighters,
Bunch of fighters, yeah. And this is like a long time ago too. So some of those Brazilian guys were not too far from the gangsters.
Yeah. And what was your route to UFC then from there?
Man, I had to fight in a bunch of different one-off promotions. It was rough. Like I have a book, Failing Upward, Death by Ego. It's available on Amazon. And it covers all of this stuff from the last month or so at Purdue before I moved to California, and all the way up until my tough tryouts. So that's that first book comes. I have more books I have to work on it to release, but like that covers that time period. I jumped around from different promotions. When I fought Shoney Carter in Shudo in Las Vegas, I beat him up real bad, and I thought that was going to be my breakout. But all I did was scare all the welterweights away, and I couldn't get a fight. I couldn't get a fight to save my life because they're like, no, that guy's, nobody knows who that guy is, and he's tough. No, we're not fighting him. So like I sat 8 to 9 months without another fight. It was awful. And then I think I had to jump into an 8-man tournament just to get a fight, like last minute. But then I got into the UFC because somebody pulled out of a middleweight fight, and I just took it. I stepped in. It was like 6 weeks to prepare for the fight, and they're basically setting me up to get beat up by this undefeated guy, Brock Larson, because it wasn't my weight class and short notice, so or shorter than usual notice. So I went out there and I beat him.
Yeah, I was like, didn't you beat him? Yeah.
Yep. And I beat him, and then they gave me another one-off contract because they thought I was going to lose that fight, and then I beat that guy. I think it was Thiago maybe. But I can't remember if it was Thiago first or if it was Berkman first, but they gave me 3 one-off contracts because they thought I was going to lose each of those fights. I was supposed to lose those fights.
So they basically used you as a backup.
Stepping stone, yeah. I was supposed to be a stepping stone for. They're gonna use me to build up some other guys, but I upset that. And after the 3rd fight I won, then they offered me a 3-fight deal, and then the next fight was on UFC 64, I think, with Kiyoshi Hironaka. Yeah, Hironaka.
So when UFC offers a contract, is it considered to be like, oh yeah, man, I've made it? Is it what it is?
Pretty much, yeah. Like, I mean, you've made it to the big league, basically. At least, I mean, that's what it was when I was around, and for a lot of the time that I was with the UFC, that's what the mindset was. And even then, before that was before you got the UFC contract, the coveted thing to do was to fight a UFC veteran. And get a win over UFC veteran. So like it was like that was a stepping stone tier. It's like, it wasn't even about money. It was, have you fought any UFC vets? Have you beat a UFC vet? Do you have a UFC contract? Like that was what it was. And people didn't really even talk about pride that much unless you were 205 or heavyweight.
Yeah, got it.
You had to be a big boy at that time. It changed as I got into the UFC because then they had started doing the smaller guys.
Yeah, and they bought Pride later on, I believe, right? Wherever. And so you entered UFC. You had like 3 contracts, but you've fought more than 3 times, right? I think.
My total, yeah, I fought 18 times with the UFC.
Yeah, so quite a bit. So you've been there for a long time, and you even fought for title with
Hmm.
GSP.
Yep.
What do you remember from that fight? I mean, do you look back and you're like, oh shit, I could have done this, I could have done that.
Yeah, I think mindset is everything. I mean, uh, he had just lost to Sarah recently by
Hmm.
getting knocked out. You know, he got clipped.
Yeah.
And then he beat Sarah, and then I fought him. So like my mentality was, oh man, this guy's got no chin. Um, Instead of, you know, getting close, get to the hips, put him on the fence, grapple. My usual strategy was changed to sprawl and brawl. Like let's just hit him. We just got to hit him, and then we can win. So I had a bad game plan going into it, and then within the first minute, I got hit with a big overhand right because I threw a bad leg kick,
Hmm.
and I fought the rest of the fight seeing 2 GSPs. You
Yeah.
know, so yeah, and then I got dropped again in the. I think I threw a single hook and dropped it and got hit with another overhand in the third. So, yeah, I made 2 big mistakes that made it very difficult to do anything else well in the fight.
But it was a tough fight. I remember like in the end, he actually dropped on his knees and you guys hugged each other because it kind of was pretty.
Oh, he had said in interviews later, I hurt him really bad to the body at some point. I think it was I kicked him pretty good in the body, and
Mhm.
like yeah, that made a mark. I didn't even know. Like he hit it well.
Yeah. So you were pretty much on the in the top of the or the top 10, top 5, and then one day UFC decided to part ways with you, right? What was the? How did you find out about this stuff, and what was the backstory, if
It
you
was
don't
like
mind sharing?
2013. Oh, they were trying to get rid of me for a long time. They had made threats every time we asked for more money when a new contract renewal was come up. Joe Silva would threaten us with like, "Oh well, he'll just lose and we'll cut him and sign him back for half as much." Like he would like always threats, always threats, always threats with that little midget. And um, yeah, like so it wasn't a surprise when it happened. I actually thought it would happen after the Johnny Hendricks fight. I thought after the Johnny Hendricks fight, I was like, I'm gonna get my walking papers. They're gonna make a call this week. It'll be over with. But they didn't. I think they overplayed their hand and thought I was done, and they set me up to lose to Eric Silva in Brazil. But
Hmm.
I smelt the trap, and I decided to shove my foot up their ass instead with that fight. So I did, and they were waiting. I knew the next time I lost, they were going to get rid of me. So
And
it
did it?
wasn't really a surprise. But yeah, Crazy Bob called. He's like, "Well, you're probably not going to be surprised." I was like, "Yeah, they're going to cut me." I was like, "Yep." I was like, "All right, well,
How
find
long
us
of the?
somewhere else."
How long of the? Not the vacation. What was the pause between UFC and I think you went to World Series of fighting
Mm-hmm.
later on.
Days.
They signed you right away, huh?
Yeah,
And you won the
yeah,
title.
yep. I won the title for him.
How does it feel to have a title or belt on you? Like, what goes
It's
through your mind?
it's great. Yeah, man. Not that many people even get the opportunity to fight for a belt or
Oh
a
yeah.
major title. So, just getting the opportunity is huge. And then being able to win, that's like what we're all trying to get to, is trying to get to that champ status. And it was big for me, but it wasn't as sweet until I was able to defend the belt against Jake. When I defended the belt against Jake Shields, that really like sealed it and cemented it as like, yeah, I fucking did it. I'm the champ, like
And
for real.
and you had some rivalry with Jake Shields, right? He's
Friendly Riley, we trained together. I
Mhm.
respect him. He's fun to compete against. I know he's going to bring it. I know he's dangerous every single time. So he tends to bring the best out of me. Um, he did that night. So, it was fun to be able to get to work and put in some work against him.
What's harder, to win the belt or to keep it mentally?
Um, well, for me right now, it's to win it because you know, a lot of my career has been me being denied the opportunity to fight for titles.
Yeah.
And then, you know, and then sometimes when I fight for the titles, I end up getting them yanked out from underneath me anyways. So the winning the title has been an issue for me. Like as a champ, I tend to win the fights afterwards. So
eventually you actually left World Series of Fighting and signed with Bellator fairly recently. What was the backstory behind?
They breached my contract. We had deals set up where I would be guaranteed fights in certain time frames, and those time frames didn't happen. And I just know that we as athletes we don't have a choice. We're going to be forced into sticking to our contract. We don't get the choice to be like, I don't want to do this time. It's just not working out. I'm just having a hard time lining these things up. I don't get to do that. I don't get to say that. Like, they're going to come hard after me. They're going to sue me. They're going to shame me. They're going to do something. Like, the promoter's not going to be like, oh, it's okay. You don't have to do it this time. Never. Right? So why should I give them the same amount of why should I give them more? Why should I give them some level of leniency that they wouldn't give me on a contract?
Makes
so
sense.
So I'm going to hold them to the contract. I was like, you're either going to pay me for the fights you owe me, you're going to give me the fights you owe me, or you're going to release me. And they released me, and I had no problem with getting hooked up with Bellator and them acquiring me.
And how do you compare Bellator, World Series of Fighting, and UFC? From I don't even know what angle. Like, angles better.
So, man, when I was with WSOF, I don't know what they're doing now, but they were all very hardworking, very hardworking. It's just similar to like what I felt like the earlier UFC was like, a little bit, people working hard, that type of stuff. But one of the things I noticed that was a problem was like there was a lot of people. There would be like one person doing way too many jobs.
Yeah,
right.
Like a startup.
They were spread thin and inexperienced, and that made me uneasy. And some of the things they were doing, I don't think they did a great job of promoting at the time. They had a lot of athletes that they could have done a way better job of promoting. More guys should have been at events. Like, I noticed things like, I love Randy and Chuck, but they would pay to fly out Randy and Chuck to do a signing when they had like Justin Gaethje and Marlon Moraes and me and all these other guys. And I'm like, why don't you fly the guys out there? It's probably cheaper for you, and have the guys meet fans. And like, why aren't they being pushed? Why isn't that? And so none of those things were done. Like, that was just my opinion. Like, they should have been doing that. But I think it was an experience thing with them, and they had a lot of issues with lawsuits internally with owners and different things. So that made me a little uneasy with them. But everybody worked hard. I can't fault them for that. Bellator has just been all class and professionalism. They know what they're doing. They've been doing this for a long time. Scott Coker knows what he's doing.
Obviously.
It feels, the energy around it is fun, like 2005 UFC was. 2005 UFC was a lot of fun. We're all in this together. We're all working hard. The fighters are all like, we're fist bumping. Yeah, great fight, good job, kick butt. Like, doesn't matter if we're gonna fight each other next, whatever. It's like, it's a good attitude. It's a good vibe, good feeling. I don't know what the UFC feels like now, but when I left the UFC, it was everybody was on eggshells, from fighters to UFC staff, because UFC staff was getting fired and replaced with interns all the time. Like, there are people there for like 5, 10, 15 years getting fired and replaced with 3 interns who were unpaid. And people could see this, and they're like, oh, their friends get fired, and like they're on eggshells, like waiting for their axe to chop on their head next. And then you had fighters the same way. Nobody knew when they were going to get cut. Nobody had any idea of why people were getting cut and why guys were getting kept around. It was a lot of mystery stuff going on. So I don't know. It seemed like a lot of people were suffering from anxiety type symptoms there. Like, it wasn't as friendly. It wasn't as fun. I get the feeling like it's like this ugly machine now, but I haven't really seen on the inside what it's like.
You've been around the game for a long time. How do you see it's changing, and how has it changed?
Oh, man. So, I mean, the biggest change has been the monopolization of the sport. We used to have more options for places to go and compete against top guys. Like everything's, controlled by the UFC now. There's less fights, less opportunities, less sponsors. So it's much harder today to make money in the sport unless you're in that, 1%, the top 1%.
Got it.
And those guys are, not making anywhere close to what they should be making, in my opinion. But you have to be like in that 1% just to make good money.
It's interesting now. It's all counterintuitive. I would think otherwise, but yeah, that's why it makes sense to ask you.
Well, I mean, there's less promotions now. The sport's shrunk. UFC's grown bigger. UFC's grown much bigger, but like there's less. There's less out there for other people to make money with. Less opportunity. The other thing that's changed is because of the UFC's market dominance, they're controlling the style of the fights too, because they're only rewarding stand-up fights. So they're forcing more people to just stand up. And that's changed the sport a little bit. I think guys are less well-rounded today than they were 10 years ago.
Which is also very counterintuitive, because I would see some guys like now like Zabit or Demetrius Johnson, like very round.
Yes, well, there are outliers, yes, but when you have the bell curve, right? You have guys on those outsides. Just because there's guys on the outsides doesn't eliminate the
understand.
So like that's what the average is. So a lot of those guys, they're not being well-rounded. There are the guys who stand out. The guys who do that are the ones that are standing out. The ones that are beating everybody. The guys that look really good. I think game planning, a part of that, has gotten thrown out the window because guys just stand and trade. They close their eyes, jump into the pocket, and throw a count. And you see this. You see it all the time. You see guys jump into the pocket, close their eyes, and throw a combination and jump out. Maybe they can hit, maybe they don't.
Yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah, but it's also driven by consumers. What people want to see, like, and right. So that's what
I mean. Maybe because I have a feeling. I think that the UFC promotes to a certain type of fan because it gives them more control over the athlete in the sport. Right. If you have guys who are more grappling based, they're more consistent with their wins. Right. So they win more fights in a row. It's hard to manipulate and control a guy who wins consistently. When guys stand and fight, their win-loss things look more like 50-50. You win one, you lose one, you win two,
you get caught.
You lose
you're right.
three.
Yep.
And
unpredictable.
It's more unpredictable. On top of that, the guys who stand and bang, their careers are much shorter.
Oh, right? Yeah.
So they're not going to make it to the level of the six-figure payday.
Oh, look at that. I didn't think about it that way.
So, and they're less likely to make it to pay-per-view points, right?
Oh,
so then they just crank them through the system faster and get new guys in and keep the pay low. It's a way of suppressing wages.
Oh, it's almost like conspiracy theory here. Yeah, that's very interesting.
It's a conspiracy theory, but
like, I just never thought about it this way. Like, I mean, that makes sense. I just never thought about it.
It's wage suppression.
Interesting.
I think it's a way of suppressing wages. And you look at numbers like career span, right? So like the average UFC fight career for men is, I think, less than a year. It's less than a year. It's like 0.7 whatever, 0.8 whatever. But like it's less than a year. Your average fight career of an average fighter, and this is minus guys who fight one time. So out of all the people, so out of all the fighters since 2000, when they started keeping the records or whatever, like which is like 2000 or something. But like out of all the fighters who fight at least twice in the UFC, less than one.
Is this?
Yeah, less than a year is their average.
For
the girls, it's even lower.
Oh my!
For their average, the main event guys, the guys they put on the card, the guys they put on the poster, theirs is like 2.25 to 2.5 year career span.
Is it because they got cut so quickly? They got cut up after a couple of years?
It's because there's a high turnover rate, yes.
Interesting.
Their bodies break down. They're not making enough money. They can't support it. They lose a few times, they get cut, go somewhere else. It's just a rough sport. It's a hard sport. It's hard to be a professional athlete for that long.
That's interesting.
So they have a very short career span in the UFC. And like I might get some blowback on this, but
let's stop it there. Hey, hold on. I don't want to get in trouble because I almost afraid that you say too much.
This won't. No, this is all just out. This has nothing to do with like legal stuff at all. This is just my theories and stuff that's out there, and you can see this stuff, the way they treat things. I have this sneaking suspicion that one of the reasons Dana finally started using women's fighters is the same thing, wage suppression, because the girls' careers are even lower. Their time in the UFC is even smaller. It's way less than the men. They don't ascend the ranks as high. The fewer females make it to the six-figure paydays. Fewer women get paid that high salary, and their careers are shorter. So you have a built-in way of having fuller cards and paying less money.
Now we're speaking, and I'm already thinking about. I can make such a clickbait video about this, and I almost worry about it.
But that's the thing is, like, I say it,
rein myself from this stuff.
It's not a comment on women's MMA. Like, I have no problem with it. It's great. It's awesome. Like, people should do what they want to do. But I believe that this is a tactic in manipulation in order to suppress fighter wages. I think that's just
interesting. Let's go back to the college. Would you, if you knew where this sport is going, would you pursue the career, or you'll be like, oh, screw this, I'd rather go to teach?
I think I probably still would have done it. Absolutely, still would have done it. But I would have had much different strategies going into it. Well, I would have been more, I would have been more self-promotion conscious. Not putting the weight of the promotion on the company, because then you're relying on them for your popularity and your notoriety. Your notoriety is the key to making money. The level of your notoriety, right? Because even if you suck as a fighter, if everybody knows who you are, you can make money.
Oh yeah. So, but now you have social media. Back then, it was not.
We didn't so much, but there's still plenty of things that could have been done to self-promote, T-shirts, lots of stuff could have happened.
For the kids who starting today, or people who enter in the field, how do you recommend to self-promote?
I would buy some books on internet marketing, social media marketing. Buy some books, read some stuff, take a course on social media marketing, because that's where everything's going. That's where all the marketing is going to. Things like Pinterest and that's for women, but for Instagram, there's YouTube, there's all kinds of different video platforms and different things. I think you need to pick like 1 to 3 platforms that you upload onto, and then focus most of your attention and most of your traffic flow to that one spot. And then you need to have a website, and you need to have all those things pushing people towards that website. And your website needs to have stuff on it that keeps people engaged, whether you pay somebody else to put up news, or you make your own news, or you do blogs, or you do videos. You got to keep bringing people in there, because you have to be relevant and in people's faces all the time, because they forget about you quick, right? And if you have 6 months in between fights, as an up and comer, people forget about you. They don't know who the hell you are.
True. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I remember this guy from whenever. So, but if you're uploading all the day, if you're doing progression reports on your Instagram stories and stuff like that. Hey, this is my week today. This is what I'm eating today. This is where my fights are. This is what I'm doing. Keep people engaged. Keep people up to date. You got to do it. That's what has to happen.
And I believe you started the YouTube channel. At least I looked through that.
I started it back a while ago, in 2010, and then I got married and had kids and got distracted and stepped away from it. And I'm like kicking myself now, because all these people blew up. Like in that time period that I took off is when everybody blew up on YouTube. And I was like, damn, dude, if I just would have kept doing it, I could be one of those, guys with 1 million followers with stupid videos. But kids take time. So I got away from editing and doing some other stuff and whatever. But I'm back on it now, so we'll get there anyways.
Yeah, that's cool.
That's official Jon Fitch for anybody that's looking
official Jon Fitch.
Official Jon Fitch. Yeah,
I do like.
Okay. I do like daily. I do during the weeks. I do live streams a lot. I do a lot of Q&A stuff with people.
Yeah, and I saw you playing this. What's the name? Ukulele.
Yeah,
I'm like,
yeah, my
this is really
ukulele.
cool.
Yes, I play my ukulele because I'm trying to show. Because I have a lot of young men who listen to me, and I want to show them that you can suck at something and do it anyways, and not be embarrassed, and like who cares? Like take a chance, like take a risk.
Yeah,
Just
like I'm
do it.
podcasting. I don't speak English. And wait,
Yeah, hey, yeah.
wait. So you saying that you suck at ukulele?
I'm saying that I'm not great. I'm not like Jake Chimbrico or whatever, and I'm not, like I'm self-taught. I've been playing for like 9 years. I'm not great, but I have fun. It's fun. Like you can not, be the best at something and have fun doing it and share it with people and not care. Like I'm trying. It's just like inspiring people. Just get out of your shell. Just do something. Do something. Like
yeah. I
get
think
get out there. Put yourself out there.
I think it's great that you. I mean, you clearly self-aware person, because I looked at your videos. I'm like, oh yeah, he's clearly practicing. He just started doing this, and it was funny. I'm joking.
Yeah, sometimes I forget the words in the middle of the song. Like,
yeah, who cares, right? Like you're having fun doing that.
Yeah.
So you planning to fight? Do you have anybody in mind?
I don't know. I mean, I'd love to get I'd love to immediately fight the winner of the tournament. I think that would be just. I think to make up for the stupid draw call, that would be just. But at the same time, I don't know if I want to wait around because that fight doesn't even happen until October.
Yeah.
So their next fight after that, it's probably the winner of the tournament wins $1 million. I don't think they're going to be super motivated to jump back in the cage again.
I wouldn't. No.
They might want to take at least a few months or 6 months off. So I may look for an in-betweener before I would do that. Just to keep busy, just to fight, just get paid, just to train again.
Who do you think would win the tournament?
I mean, I'm pulling for Rory so that I can fight him for the belt afterwards. But like, he may retire after the tournament.
Yeah, he had that odd speech after the fight with you.
Well, that's just what I do to people. I make people feel that way.
Oh, look at you. So
it's the same thing with Khabib. Look at Poirier's face after that fight. Like, it's the same face that Rory made. Like, when you have no idea what just happened. Like, you're gonna find excuses to try to reason and make reason for what happened. There's like a cognitive dissonance there that happens. Like, I should have been so easy for him to keep me there and do this to me. It must have been I just wasn't feeling it, or Jesus told me not to do it. Not so, Jon, this guy was so much better than me.
So you fighting him again. What do you do differently?
I beat him up even worse. I take it to 11. I take it to 11 instead of 10.
Okay.
I don't know. I do what I do. I bust my ass. I train hard. I come out and fight my ass off, and I'll probably win.
Basically, you're saying do the same thing and just push harder.
Push harder. Yeah. There were some times in there that I realized that I could have done something a little, here and there. So he was controlling. Like, I was pinching. He would go butterfly, and I perfectly controlling his butterfly. He couldn't get away from that, but he would just tie up my arm and head so that I couldn't get any clean shots on him.
Mm-hmm.
And I was frustrated with trying to open up and land something. I should have retreated a little bit and pushed my way maybe into half guard. And you see later in the fight, once I got into half guard at one point, I did most of my damage from that half guard, but it didn't last that long. So that's something that I would look and take forward with me, is that, like, he's easier to beat up in the half guard position than controlling him in his butterflies with his butterflies in.
Got it. I see. Well, so hopefully it happens again. And
there's little things that can, definitely, there's little mistakes. There's things that can be taken advantage of.
Mm-hmm. Jon, so for the ending of the podcast, I wanted to kind of cheer up a little and walk you through a little blitz. I'm going to ask you a quick question and you give me a quick answer.
Okay.
And it's not going to be related to fighting.
Mm.
All right. So what's your favorite movie?
Fight Club was my favorite movie for a really long time. I don't know why. But,
I know why.
But I have man, it's too Big Trouble Little China is one of my favorite movies too. Like I have a million favorite movies. It's too hard. Depends on the day.
So all movies you like are about fighting.
No, not all of them.
But there's two you just
But
there's
a
mentioned.
There's a lot of fighting ones in there.
Yeah, your favorite
Spider-Verse is a good movie. I've
which
watched
one?
that. Spider-Man, Spider-Verse.
Yeah, and they fighting too. Okay, cool. What's your favorite scene?
A River Runs Through It's a good movie. River Runs Through It. That's not really fighting, but they have fighting in it. I don't know.
River Run Through. Is it the about Brad Pitt? Is it that thing?
Is it the one with Brad Pitt?
I don't know. I kind of anyway.
I don't know. It's Brad Pitt and his father and his like brother or whatever. And yeah.
Yeah. Oh yes. Yeah, that's what I thought. About fishing, some other stuff, I think.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay, next question. Your favorite singer or a band?
Man, it depends. I mean, Johnny Cash is one of my all-time favorites.
Okay.
I'd say I liked a lot of, Willie Nelson, Pearl Jam. I got a lot. Yeah. Like, and I switched. Ika Mouse is my favorite, like reggae singer. It depends on, because I go through moods in music too. So I'll be like on, some kind of like synthetic, whatever music, 80s music for like a few months. And then I'll switch and I'll listen to, I listened to David Bowie for like 6 months once. Nothing but David Bowie, I think. I don't know, it's weird. Like I just go through these little phases. And
yeah.
Like I've been listening to a lot of Chris Stapleton right now.
That's cool.
Yeah. Tennessee whiskey. It's good.
What's your favorite dish?
I love like Korean barbecue. It's good. Shabu shabu is good too.
Yeah. Nice. What's your favorite place in the United States?
My bed. My bed. No, man, there's a lot of good places in the United States. The beach.
Yeah,
I really like Huntington. I really like Huntington Beach. I really do. Nice. I really like Huntington Beach. I've only been to San Diego once, and I liked it. If I go down there more often, it may take over Huntington Beach. But like, I really liked Huntington Beach. It's been a while since I've been down there, but like, it's not too yuppie, but it's nice still.
What's your favorite sport to watch?
Probably fighting.
Surprise here, huh?
Yeah, I don't really. Yeah, I kind of, the more I got into this fighting, the less I tolerated other sports. It seemed like they were just fighting without fighting.
When you watch other fighters, do you learn something, or do you try to apply what they've done, or you like, oh, it's interesting, but it's not my style?
I'll analyze and see, what they're doing. I try to figure out what they're doing. I'll try to figure out game plans, strategies, and whatever. Like I get frustrated when there's no clear strategy or game plan at all. The guys are just back and forth trading.
I see. Yeah, you don't like brawls.
I mean, sometimes they're okay, but like, where's the skill? Make him miss. Make the guy miss. Set a trap. Man, who was? I mean, like the guys doing the push kick and then setting up the question mark kick. Okay, well, they have at least a strategy. They're trying to funnel you into something. But like a lot of these guys are just jumping in the pocket, closing their eyes, and throwing a combination.
Yeah. What's the first item on your bucket list?
Man. Like the only big thing that I've been thinking about is they do this thing in Texas where they hunt hogs from a helicopter.
Hunt hogs from a helicopter? Using what?
Right? I think like 300 blackout.
Holy moly!
Big rounds. The 300 blackout shoots. It shoots the AK-47 round, but it's the AR-15 shell. So they modify the shell to fit the AR, the bigger round, the 7.56. Is that what it is for the AK? To fit that big round into the.
You asking me because I'm Russian? I don't know.
Yeah. So yeah, I read about that. because the hogs are a big problem in Texas. They do a lot of damage every year to the agriculture because they dig things up, they root, they breed real fast. So like it's like they're like a rat infestation. So like you're doing a good service, a public service.
Oh, come on. They just found a way to justify killing hogs from the Holly. It's the sickest thing I've heard, but it's so cool.
Because there's so many of them.
Yeah.
It's an infestation. There's so many of them, like going on the ground, like you're not going to kill enough of them. They want to take out like 40 at a time because they're just destroying everything. And that screws up the natural habitat because other animals can't live because these things are so bad. So like,
yeah, they're bullies, right?
Yeah. So like, well, they just eat everything and trample everything, and then nothing else can survive there because they've destroyed everything. So you've got to get rid of them. They're not natural to the habitat. So this is a fast way they've figured out to do it.
That's a really creative way.
$1,500, $2,500 to fly in a helicopter and shoot pigs.
That's very cool. I mean, I've never heard about it, but it sounds fascinating. Pretty creative. So you said you have 2 kids, right?
Yeah.
2 sons. What life advice would you give them?
Man, just try your hardest, but don't forget to stop and enjoy yourself while you're doing it. I'm trying to teach them about being outcome independent. Work hard, fight for your goals, but don't be crushed if you don't get it. Like it should be about the journey. It should be about the work you're doing. Yeah, it's the process of getting there. Don't be, and I've lost that before. Sometimes you got to be reminded.
That's a great advice. Oh, Jon, thank you very much for the interview. I really appreciate it. And best of luck in your career, and I hope it to last longer.
Thank you. And thanks for reaching out. It's good talking to you.